Hello and welcome to the History of Aviation podcast, episode number 8181. I'm Derrick Beeler coming to you live from my kitchen. I might do a cooking show after this. Everything's set
Yeah,
up.
yeah, might as well. I got the perfect camera for it. I can just literally like move my camera and I can just do the down. I can do it all.
Well, I'm not sure anybody would want me cooking them anything, but anyway,
Right?
as usual, I'm always joined by Julien Matinson and our producer Shae Jones. Julien, how's it going, buddy?
Hey, it's going good. Thank you very much for having me on the podcast today.
Shae, what have you been up to?
No good actually.
That
No,
figures.
you got to do it. If you hear sirens, I was here the whole time. So no, everything's been doing pretty well. I've been working and they're getting ready to change our schedules at work, so I'll be doing 410s here pretty soon. So that's going to be exhausting. But other than that, I'm just chilling.
Well, you can't go wrong there. So, what a talk we had with Jerry Scott, the Chief Operations Officer for the Lone Star Flight Museum down in Houston.
Yeah, that was
Jerry.
that was so good. I think that we are starting to head in a direction that we're not going to want to turn away from, especially after this episode and the previous episode with Rod Machado, like two right in a row that have been super fun to record. And I cannot wait to see who's next. So,
Two great guests, absolutely. And we're looking forward to having many, many more guests here on the podcast for all of us enthusiasts out there that have this huge love for aviation. I think this is the kind of thing that folks want to hear. So, so let's jump into it. Buckle your seatbelts. This is a great interview. Jerry Scott, Chief Operations Officer of the Lone Star Flight Museum. Enjoy.
I'm Captain Cliff, and you're listening to the History of Aviation podcast.
Okay, on the History of Aviation podcast today, we have Jerry Scott from the Lone Star Flight Museum. And Jerry, I've often said that if you was allowed to set up a tent and camp out inside of an aviation museum, I would be the first in line, but I don't think most would allow that. So how are you doing, Jerry?
Doing great. And actually, we do have overnights at our museum for scouts and other groups as well. So would love to accommodate that sometime. It's a lot of fun. So appreciate the opportunity to be here. Lone Star Flight Museum started in 88, 89 by a local, very successful businessman named Robert Waltrip. And he had a passion for aviation. His first airplane that he acquired was actually our B-25. And then after that, many other aircraft through the years, some buying and selling. He unfortunately he passed away. He was very, very advanced age about 2 years ago, and it was our honor to participate in his memorial service. In 1990, the first year or so we were at Hobby, where he had his corporate hangar for his business. Then about 1990, we moved to Galveston and had two hangars dedicated just to the museum. And it really a fun place, a great place to be. And but in 2008, this hurricane named Ike came along, and we flew everything out of the museum that was airworthy and to safety. And so we got to do something different. We had 8 feet of water in the hangar, so we need to do something different. Board of directors made the decision and went through the fundraising process and design process. And in 2017, we moved here to Ellington Airport. And Ellington's a really amazing, very interesting airfield. It goes back to 1917 when it first opened. A lot of history to it here. Really fascinating place. You never know what's behind the hangar doors of aircraft here on the field. Always very interesting. And our opening weekend that we moved in here, Hurricane Harvey hit.
Oh,
and
no.
But our facility, 130,000 square foot facility, really held up like a fortress and did very, very well. And then we had no damage, aircraft damages or anything like that. So we've been very pleased, and we've been through various hurricanes since then. We're here located at Ellington Field, right behind the NASA, as it's referred to, the Vomit Comet, which was a 707 they used for parabolic curves to train astronauts through the years. And so we're right behind that towards the front of the airport. From Memorial Day to Labor Day, we're open 7 days a week. And then Labor Day, we actually close on Mondays after Labor Day until the next Memorial Day. And then it'll be 6 days a week at that point. We have a lot of events during the year coming up. Actually, September 20th, we have Girls in Aviation Day. And we've already have about, I think the number is about 500 young ladies registered. And we invite people in. We'll have a ramp full of aircraft that they can see, and a lot of sessions and a lot of things going on, and some very notable pilots and others in the industry to speak to them. On Labor Day, which is actually a month from today, 4 weeks from today, I should say, is probably our largest single day of the year. Instead of aircraft on the ramp this year, we're going to fill the ramp with military vehicles. And so we're reaching out to a lot of locals, and we serve hot dogs that day and just have a lot of fun. But throughout the year, we do have a lot of other events. We've got a hangar bash coming up in October. We've got our gala coming up in November. So there's a lot of, there's always events going on. Our website is lonestarflight.org, and information can be found on that, as well as social media places. We do one of the real interesting ones, to me at least, has been the plane of the month. Not only because I get to schedule them, but people actually ask, what's the plane of the month next month? And so this year, being the 50th anniversary of the official end of the Vietnam conflict, we honored Vietnam veterans from March through July with aircraft from the Vietnam era. We actually had a CH-46. That was a Presidential One, an HMX fleet aircraft. We've had an A4. We had an F4, F-100, T-33. So a lot of interesting aircraft. And each week we'll do a hangar talk on those aircraft. So guests will come in and we'll hear about that type of aircraft as well as that specific aircraft. This month, the month of August, we have a BAC Jet Provost Mark V. So got a little bit away from the American aircraft Vietnam era, but it's a interesting aircraft. Original paint, I believe, on it with an interesting history. This one actually raced in 2019 at the Reno Air Races. If you're familiar with the Jet Provost, it didn't set any speed records, but it was a valiant participant, let's say. So we're happy to have it this month. So next month we'll be celebrating the 100th anniversary of Fairchild Aircraft, and so we've got actually our former chairman of the board has a beautiful Oshkosh Bronze Lindy winner F-24 Fairchild, and we have our own PT-19 as well. So that's just a bit of some of the things that are regularly going on. We just finished up our camps. Throughout the summer, we have camps that go on, and great reviews on that by a lot of folks. We have a speaker series that we do throughout the year, and again, you just have to watch the website for that. We have a flight program that folks can actually between certain, over a certain age, can purchase a flight in various aircraft, and that's a lot of fun. It's always subject to weather, obviously, but for a lot of people to be able to fly in a Stearman or a PT-19 or a B-25 or a T-6 may not be available a lot of other times, and we find sometimes it's a connection. My grandfather trained in these, or I'm just an enthusiast. So we have a lot of things that go on, certainly, and it's a fun place, and it's never dull. That's for sure.
Yeah, and you are a very busy man doing a lot of really great things in aviation, that's for sure. But one of the things is your museum, the Lone Star Flight Museum, holds the Jimmy Doolittle B-25 bomber, which is something I'm personally not familiar with. So can you give us a little education on that aircraft?
Absolutely. As I mentioned, that was the first aircraft that Mr. Waltrip had acquired. It has been selected by the Doolittle Association, the families, as being the aircraft to represent them. And so it carries the logo on the side of it. This is the logo. Now, obviously, this was the logo after the mission, but so it's the only one that flies. My understanding is that carries the logo of the family. The particular logo itself made up here. There was one squadron, the 17th Bomb Group, that had these 7 Maltese crosses. You see the 4 logos there. Well, the Thunderbird came from the 34th Squadron. The Kicking Mule came from the 95th, and the 37th from the Tiger's Head, and then the one other squadron that was not in that big group, but came from the 89th Recon Group. Those were the 4 that made up the pilots. 16 aircraft, 80 men that launched off of the CV-8 Hornet. We're very fortunate that we have an oversized model of the Hornet here in a plexiglass case. In that model, to the left in the front, we have a fuse box cover that 7 of those 80 men signed for us through the years.
Nice.
So for us, it's a great treasure. It's important to tell the story of what those men did. While it didn't have a huge military impact, it had a tremendous psychological impact on the Japanese at that time. It forced them to pull their assets back towards Japanese islands to protect that. And so that left them more vulnerable out in other places. So it's huge psychological impact. They had to launch early because they were spotted and radioed ahead by a fishing trawler, we'll call it, as they call it. It was and told of their position. So the idea for this actually came from Captain Francis Lowe. He was actually the assistant chief of anti-submarine warfare, not even an aviator. And they looked for which type of aircraft. And there was no way for them to land back onto the ship. So the plan was to continue on to various locations. It was really considered a very successful mission because of the psychological impact and that it had. 3 airmen were killed during that. 8 of them were captured. Of those 8 that were captured, 4 lived, 4 died in captivity. 3 of those were executed, and 1 died from disease. Now, what you often don't hear is that the Japanese sought to go find those crew. And most of the crew actually did get out and continued to fly. But the Japanese actually executed, it's estimated, 250,000 Chinese looking for these men from these 16 aircraft. So it was really an amazing feat for that time, and it happened in April, right after December 7th. So it wasn't that long time-wise, and it was a boost for morale for the U.S. Troops as well as U.S. general population, and that was needed. That was important. Being the official excuse me, being the official aircraft of the Doolittle Association, we've been honored to be invited about 2.5 years ago to the rollout of the B-21 Raider there in Palmdale. And I got to tell you, that was a trip of a lifetime. They Northrop and the folks there at Palmdale treated us like royalty, and they put us in referred to as the petting zoo. That you go around and see all these aircraft, and there's a B-2 and all these different aircraft, amazing airplanes around us. We got more attention than they did. I'm sure because these people work on those and they're familiar with them. But it was really a treat, and the aircraft flew fantastic. The only squawk I could squawk the aircraft when I got back was one push to talk in the back was sticking. Other than that, the aircraft flew just fantastically, and it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun, I got to say. But again, trip of a lifetime. But so we talked about the history of that with folks, and it's important to know and to talk about history and sacrifices. And sometimes, as I said, we do rides in a lot of these aircraft. Maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago, we had a gentleman and his son had bought a ride on the aircraft. And just before the flight, they told us that the father of the two, and he wasn't very old, but probably in his late 30s, said, "You have a picture of my grandfather in the museum." I said, "Really? Where is that? What picture?" His granddad was on crew number 13. And it was an incredibly special time for us and for them. This young man talking about his great grandfather, he tells, according to his dad, he tells him at school all the time about him. And so to be able to do that is a very special thing. And we love doing that and being a part of that history and bringing that to life. Sometimes we'll have, we'll have people that will, first time experience that their grandfather or father, whoever, and the vibrations, the smells, the sounds, all of those things that go with that before you even leave the ground, and just make it special.
Oh, that definitely would be special. Julien?
Yes, very interesting to see, to hear what you have to say about the aviation industry. So one observation, so I did my thesis on pilot supply and demand, and one thing that we've noticed is a shift in perspective on how young people perceive pilot careers. Have you noticed the difference since the pandemic, how young people perceive pilot careers as a stable career, and whereas before pilots were perceived as daredevils and conquerors of the sky, and now they're some Gen Zs might perceive pilots as a career that's subject to biological attacks or pandemics, and so they may perceive it as not such a stable career. And so is the museum doing things to change that perspective, and how do you notice anything in that area?
Julien, that's an interesting question, and I would say that yes, certainly. And one of the changes that I think started occurring even prior to COVID was not the same passion for aviation. And there was always seemed to be, at least people that I came across, were passionate about flying or passionate about airplanes. And it's right now there's some shortages, and particularly in maintainers. And so one of the things that we talk about a lot, and we have this last year, we had over about 22,000 kids come through from school districts around here. I don't mean with grandparents or parents, but actually bust in with schools as a supplemental to their program. We're a STEM-based education program. So we try and show and let these folks know and encourage them, these young folks know that not everybody has to be a pilot to be in aviation. There's so many other factors and so many other things that we need from maintainers to air traffic controllers to all across the board, managers, just so many things. And, there fortunately there still are pilots that or young folks that are interested in becoming a pilot. I haven't seen as much of discussion of risk as to up and down, because from a lot of the folks I talk with, they'll look at it as a cycle, and those cycles have gotten shorter. I can remember when they couldn't get enough pilots fast enough, and then seemed like it was 6 months later they were laying off pilots. I think a lot of folks will look at it as a cycle. Other jobs within that maybe have a little more stability in the sense of that. But, listen, I think that somebody is well trained and loves to fly. I think there's jobs out there that they can, most likely find. A lot of the days from, cradle to grave on some of those, not only in aviation, but just in industry, businesses and so forth, are kind of different now. The pandemic had a significant impact, and yet during that time, they couldn't get enough cargo pilots to fly cargo. So sometimes it's a shift in that. And I knew corporate pilots and airline pilots that, I'm on the chopping block. I may not make it. But it didn't take long for it to bounce back. We try and show folks, if with a good education, there's a lot of opportunities throughout aviation, not just by no means just becoming a pilot.
So this is leads to the book that I wrote, The Ultimate Guide to Careers in Aviation. And so it talks about, you'll see the air traffic control tower in the center of the book. And so it talks a little bit about airport trends and airline trends. And it talks about the four main careers in aviation. That's pilot, aircraft mechanic, air traffic controller, and aviation management, which is my area. And so it gives Gen Zs, so young kids, first touch point on what those careers mean. And my second book that I wrote, which is based on the TED Talk, Mediocrity is Killing Your Superpower. So it talks about the role of women in aviation and how women have taken on roles of leadership within the industry, striving for excellence in the industry. And as you know, the aviation industry is also prone to having accidents. And so how do you come out of that? And so learning from that, we can apply that to our careers. If there's a problem, how do you resolve that problem and come out of that and make it a winning situation? And so that book is about striving for excellence within an aviation context.
Interesting. And we are also the official home of the Texas Aviation Hall of Fame. And this last year, this year, I should say, this last cycle, we have our luncheon and announce inductees folks in March. 3 people this year. One of them was the Blue Angel friend that I mentioned, amazing gentleman, and the other 2 inductees were both females. One of them, Tammy Jo Schultz, that was she was an F-18 pilot and then the Southwest captain the day that landed in Philadelphia with that issue on her engine. She's an amazing lady. And the other, General, I just want to blank on her name real quick. I can't believe I forgot her name, but she's retired 2-star general, first female to command a squadron. And she was an F-15 pilot and all Texas based, if you will. And, but really amazing people. And certainly we want to encourage all young folks, regardless of whatever their gender or their race or backgrounds. And, but I think, if they can dream it and see it, then they can be it. And so we try and show that. And it's Jeannie Levitt, General Jeannie Levitt. I just apologies, Jeannie, on that. And Al Cisneros was the Blue Angel. So our goal is certainly to inspire those young folks, and then we celebrate those as well that have those achievements, and those are important things for us.
Definitely.
So what are some of the barriers that young people may face getting into a pilot career? The statistics say that 94% of pilots are male and only 6% are female. And in other parts of the world, airlines have aggressively started hiring female pilots. Do you see the same type of initiative in the United States?
I do. And if you go back a ways, I think that so many of the pilots, so many pilots came out of the military, and those were predominantly male pilots. And but that shifted, and we're not having as many military pilots come out and pursue careers like it. Not to say there are not any, but certainly not in the numbers that there were. So I think financial is one barrier. I think perception is another barrier, and I'm here to tell you that women can be just as good pilots as men can.
Absolutely.
I've got, we have a lady here not too far from us that has a school, and she is just absolutely amazing. She's an air show pilot as well. She retired from Southwest Airlines, but she still teaches aerobatics, and she's a grandmother, and even a number of our pilots look at her as a mother figure. She's worked with them. When she's up doing aerobatics, it's almost like she's sitting in a recliner when she's on the PA talking, and she's just amazing. So I think some of it is perception, and perhaps even some of it can be bias out there, but I think that that can be overcome. If somebody is determined, I have no doubt that General Levitt and Tammy Jo had challenges. They were some of the early female military pilots, and probably were not, although they've not told me that, I would think probably not perceived in the same way, but they were both exceptional and went on to do exceptional things. So don't let my message would be, don't let those things restrict you. Be passionate about it and work hard on it, because there's always going to be some kind of barrier, male, female, whatever it may be. Don't let those restrict you. Work through those, deal with those, and move beyond that, and don't let those pull you back. But I think a lot of airlines are focused on hiring more, and as long I encourage that. I think that's fantastic, provided the same quality, because an airplane doesn't know if they're male or female, and they're looking for a good pilot in that, and more females, more young girls get into the industry. I think that's fantastic, and we certainly want to encourage that.
Absolutely, we definitely want to encourage it. And one thing that I thought about when we found out we were going to have you on the podcast, and it kind of hit me right away after we spoke on the phone and talked about you coming on and stuff. I think a lot of the listeners would be interested. I know I am. Walk us through a day in the life of operating a aviation museum.
There's always a lot of activity, and we have an amazing staff here. Our CEO is named Anna Hawley, and she's doing a wonderful job, and just a tremendous staff. Julien, I guess I hadn't really thought about it, but so much of our staff, I don't know what the percentage is, but probably more than half are female. And so we've got a large education group focused on those kids coming through. Part of that is that it's not just that's a green airplane, that's a blue airplane. What about those airplanes? How does that work? Wings are different. Propulsion is different. And they really challenge those kids as they come through in these classes. I'll hang back and listen a lot of times just to kind of hear responses and questions from the kids. And I'm a believer that by and large, if you challenge those young folks, they rise to that. If you just let them slide, they're going to slide. But if you challenge them, they do rise to that level. And some of the answers are just amazing. We have being open to the public, people walking around and reading. We have information boards for each aircraft that they can tell what the type is specific to that aircraft, the Texas connection, as well as a STEM fact about that aircraft. We have groups come through. We also have a lot of organizations that have events here. For example, tonight we've got a local aviation event evening going on here, and they have dinner catered in, and they're here on a monthly basis. We have weddings, we have concerts, and it's a group called Candlelight that on a regular basis. And again, you have to see it on our website to see the next schedule, but they come in, and it's really an interesting experience. We have proms here. We have last Thursday, we had a large teachers event here. One of the school districts invites all their new teachers to come in, and they have a luncheon. So it's no 2 days alike. I also am the director of flight operations, and so I get to deal with the airplanes. And aircraft these old take a lot of tender, loving care. They're in great shape, and we've got we actually contract out our maintenance now to an organization here. They do a fantastic job. So we make sure that they're top notch. Our pilot corps are top notch. The combination of former military airlines, primarily, and highly trained. So each communication's important. So 3 days a week. One day we have a general staff meeting, and then 2 other days for 15 to 20 minutes before the museum opens. We gather in the entryway down here by our missions desk, and everybody talks about, okay, today I got this going on. We got this group coming in. We got this requirement. I need help putting up chairs and tables, or whatever it may be, so that everybody knows kind of what's going on. So communication is very important here. But our volunteers, I can't say enough about. I was a volunteer for a long time, in fact, and I started as a volunteer in 2009. I was looking for something for my son and I to do on weekends together, just enjoy being together. Our first 2 weekends, and this was in Galveston, we spent wiping down the B-25. We were soaked for sweat, head to foot, and had a blast. He grew up, went off to college, and now lives in the Dallas area, and I'm still here. So about 3 years ago, I was asked to join the staff, and so it's fun. We have amazing people come through. We actually have exhibits as well to try and tell history in different hallways. In one of the hallways right now, paintings of bombers of World War II. Prior to that, we had an exhibit called From Space to Sea, on loan from the U.S. Navy. It had some amazing paintings of NASA activities, with the Navy and Navy personnel. So there's a lot of things going on a daily basis. No 2 days alike, certainly. And that's what keeps it interesting. The other part is you never know who's going to walk through the door. From former astronauts to aviation notables to just interesting people. So they often will want to show us something that their family had, or their grandfather or grandmother, whoever it may be. We actually had a lady a few years ago that had been a Rosie the Riveter, and actually helped produce our B-25. And she had never seen one fly, she said. So we took her on a flight and got pictures. And she was about 92 at the time, very spry, had a huge fan club of family here with her. And after the flight, pilot said, "Somebody get a marker." So ran, got a marker, and had her sign the Bombay door. So
that's amazing.
We love having those kinds of folks. As I say, you never know who's going to come through the door.
Shae, do you have anything for Jerry?
Well, first thing is I love stories like that where you guys were probably surprised to hear that she was a riveter. And how was her response when you guys said, "Well, let's take you up in the plane"?
She was excited, and talked about her coworker. They were bucking and riveting, and they would take turns. And tell you what, she had to have been tough certainly at that age, but she still was spunky. And anytime I go up any of these aircraft, I think about those men and women that built them, not expecting them to last 80 years or more, and flew them, and the risks that they knew and accepted as they performed their mission, because they truly were a greatest generation, in my opinion.
I agree.
If you talk to them, we were just doing our job. We were just doing what was asked of us. Well, it wasn't about them. It was about the greater good. And that's, to me, that's fantastic and amazing. And so many of them still have that attitude. Fewer and fewer of them around. So we've added to ours on Memorial Day each year. Speaking of events on Memorial Day, we honor certainly the fallen, because that's what Memorial Day is, but we also honor Vietnam veterans and having Vietnam aircraft on the ramp. This year we had 13, I think, aircraft on the ramp, Vietnam era. And the highlight was we had arranged, and we didn't announce it in advance, but F-100 here on the airport that's flying still. And so it went up and did some bounces and then taxied up and shut down on our ramp. And so we announced that. And so on the PA, so people could come out and along the perimeter, stand and watch that. And that's not a very common occurrence anymore, to be able to see that, and people enjoy that. The human aspect of these, I mean, these are machines, and without the human side of this, they're just machines.
They're just machines,
but they enabled to protect our freedom and to do a lot of things that make this country the great as it is. And I think probably my favorite flight occurred in a bomber a few years ago. This was actually in Galveston, and I've been fortunate enough to early in my time with the museum to be a crew chief and continue that. So as a crew chief, one of the things you do is you will pre-flight the airplane and then prepare it for a walk around by the crew, the pilots, but also brief the passengers. And there was a passenger that he and his son were there. He had, the older gentleman had a walker, I would say 90, 92 years old. And so I went through the safety brief, as required, and a bit of history of the aircraft and things. And then I said to his son, I said, "Can I talk to you a minute?" And I pulled him aside and said, "I'm kind of concerned about your dad. And, oh, well, that's just for stability, and he still can get around good." I said, "Well, in the event of emergency," and And he said, what if he stayed in the same seat and didn't move around in the aircraft? Because I was concerned about that. He said, if he just sits in the seat. I said, okay, all right, I gave in. Well, he sat at a radio desk, and his son sat behind him, and then two people across. And as we were taxiing out and going through our checklist, I would turn and check and look, and the older gentleman was sitting there stoically at the seat. His son behind him was patting him on the shoulder from behind with big tears coming down the son's face. And I said, well, there's more to the story on this one. And the older gentleman never moved during the flight, sat there very stoically. The son moved around as we would encourage him to after we get to altitude, taking pictures, moving around. After we taxied back in and shutting down, son asked, could we get a picture with the crew? Of course. So we get out the aircraft, and the son said, my dad was in this type of aircraft in World War II, and he was shot down. Half the crew didn't survive. Today, he was seated in the same position. Now I get it. Now I understand all those years. And as I said earlier, the vibrations, the smoke, the smells, the sounds. And it was a very meaningful flight to us. And didn't know about his service before the flight. Right. But we were honored to have a picture with him and to hear his story as well. So those are very special to us, and that connection with those people and that history. So that was probably the most meaningful flight that I've been a part of.
And you talk about it being emotional. I mean, I will admit air shows are emotional for me.
Yeah. Yep.
Going into museums and seeing some of these things and reading, they are actually emotional for me. That's the passion.
I have a hard time with missing man formations, that because they have such meaning to them.
Yes.
It's not four airplanes flying and one pulling up. It's meaningful. And what does that, what does that denote? And so, I agree with you. There can be a lot of emotion tied to that. And we're fortunate to be able to do this on a regular basis and also enable others to experience. And that's important to us to be able to experience.
Yeah, that is definitely so awesome. Cool. And it was such an honor to have you on the podcast today as well.
Yeah. Well, I guess my only last thing that I would ask is there anything that you, through like interviews or anything like that, is there anything that you wished somebody would ask you, but nobody has asked you yet?
Oh, good. That's a good question. Shae, I can't think of anything that hasn't been. We're very fortunate. Actually, on Tuesdays this year is a free Tuesdays, and sponsored by ExxonMobil. And so nice. We look and seek those kinds of relationships. You have to go online to register for that, but we want to make it as accessible as possible to all folks. We're fortunate, this amazing airport here and the history of the airport, and we've got NASA here. We've got the military, the Coast Guard, the Marines, the Army Guard, the Air Guard, all based here, and great relationships with those folks. And we'll have Helicopter Day in March, and we invite those folks to come down. The Coast Guard is always the first to say what time. And the Army Guard has to go through more permissions, and sometimes they can make it, sometimes they can't. But still great folks. And we have in the facility here, we have a coffee shop, and they're regulars in there, and we love that. Love to be able to support them and serve them.
I live there, I'd be in there every day. I'm a huge coffee
Yeah,
fan.
you get to live in an aviation heaven, basically.
Yep.
It's
And
everywhere you look is aviation. Yeah.
we have a lot of fun and truly do. And my career actually, I was in aviation since March of 1983 in global fuel sales, trip logistics support, and primarily for two companies during that long period of time. And aviation's always been a passion. And so, being able to participate and have fun, marshal aircraft, clean aircraft, and just be around a lot of it. And so let's just say 3 years ago, I was asked to join the staff, and it's been fun. It's been interesting. We're very fortunate right now. And Julien, to your kind of part of what you were talking about earlier, right now, museums, and I can only really speak to Houston ones, but a lot of museums are struggling. Their attendance is really down right now. And I'm thinking of two large ones here in the Houston area that because of relationships, we talk, and we've been very fortunate that we're pretty much right on track. And so we work hard to have programs and events and things that people find. Last Friday night, for example, we had bingo night. Nothing to do with aviation.
D22.
Bingo.
Except it's in the middle of a bunch of airplanes and
cool.
Families, and it's just a great time. It's just a great time. We have movie night. The movie coming up.
I saw that movie night. I was like, I want to go to a movie night.
Well, how long has it been since you've sat in the middle of a hangar with airplanes all around you and watched the movie E.T.? It's a real throwback movie.
I don't think I've ever done that. Yeah.
So we try and have a lot of events that are enjoyable, fun, and to the kids coming through, we don't tell them that they're learning; they're just having fun. Mm-hmm. And I when I'm down there, which is a lot, I'd rather be down there than being at a desk for sure.
Yeah.
But as kids come through, I'll ask them as they're leaving or whatever, did you have fun today? Yeah. And so they're enthusiastic. We've yet to have anybody come through and say, not really.
All right.
So they could be in the classroom hearing facts and things like it. That's not what we want to do. We want to make this experiential. We want to make this enjoyable. So we've got a tremendous education staff that will take these groups of kids around and talk about those and why was it important. And so it's a lot of fun, and it's very worthwhile. And we've got a lot of momentum going here at the museum, and it's really multi-generational as well. We get older folks come through. In fact, we target those sometimes, so that with tours and things like that, so that not a lot of kids running around them, but they can at their own pace. So it's really a fascinating place, and it's grown a lot, and changed a lot. And but you have to do that. And
that's a good point you just made too, because you think about any museum, whether it's a science museum or music museum, there's always that one kid in the group that's a straggler. And it's not that they're trying to leave the group, but they're like, you turn around and they're just like, they found this interesting thing that they're like, I don't know why, but I'm drawn to this, whatever it is, whether no matter what topic it is. Aviation is like, oh, there's this propeller, this thing's huge, this is amazing,
right.
We have an ambassador program, and that kids with 13 to 18, I believe, is their age group, and they will come on a regular basis. And Shae, it's those kinds of kids that just they're off the chart on their on their knowledge and things. And one young guy, he just got old enough to qualify for that, but for years his mother had been bringing he and his three siblings around, and great family. And he every time I'd see him, Mr. Jerry, I have a question for you. And I'm like, oh boy, I hope I can know the answer. And if I don't,
It's like Sheldon.
yeah, very much. Just a bright young man, and and he wants to become a pilot. And I'm not sure if he's going to get pulled in the engineering direction, or pilot or both. But he's tremendously intelligent, and we want to encourage those folks, and whether they be boys or girls, same thing. We want to encourage them and to follow that dream, that passion, and we try and light that fire, for them, because there's no known cure. Once that catches, there's no known cure.
Yeah, once you got it forever.
Once it got me, that I've never been cured from it. I never will. Yeah. Julian, I think you had something, Julian. You're muted. You're muted, Julian.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yep, go ahead.
Awesome. So I got into aviation in my mid-20s, became a flight attendant, and I love the career very much. Recently, on a recent trip to visit my mother down in San Diego, she's 82, and she moved into independent living, and we set up a trolley for her to organize her cleaning stuff and things. And we made a little video of my mom, because I always do. And I says, my mom is now going to be a flight attendant. And she stepped right into the role and pushed the trolley and started serving beverages. So to say that aviation attracts even young and old, and even if you're into your 80s and 90s, you can still get engaged with the dynamics of aviation, not just the aerodynamics components of it, but the role play or the fantasy of being a pilot or an engineer. But with the upcoming new changes in aviation with electric takeoff, vertical takeoff, it opens up a lot of opportunities for people to be involved in aviation, but not just be a pilot. And so there's lots of training opportunities in the United States and in Canada as well for those that are seeking careers in the aviation industry.
Absolutely. And one area that I hadn't even mentioned is that we're fortunate to be located not very far from Johnson Space Center, NASA. So we actually have in our hangar, not far from me right here, the CCT2, Crew Compartment Trainer 2, and it would tilt 90 degrees up, and it was referred to as a high fidelity trainer. Checklists, switches, things like that, how to get in the suit, so forth. And this is one of the actual ones that they used. They had two like this one other, and then they had the full length one that is in Seattle. We also have the SMSMB, which is the shuttle motion based simulator, and every shuttle commander and pilot trained in this actual simulator. And
that's amazing.
So we're fortunate to be close, and we have a lot of NASA families that come through, and that they want to show their children, grandchildren, I worked on this, I trained people on this. And there's Julian, you're talking about training. There's a lot of people within NASA that trained others, trained the astronauts and trained others. So tremendous number of people. And some of those are even our volunteers that actually will do presentations about that equipment. So we're fortunate to have that. So it's not only the historic, but and what prompted the thought was you're talking about future with electric and unmanned and so forth. To have that, to look forward with NASA and what other things are coming. We've got here hanging in our one of our hangars the MQ-1 Predator, and it's and then followed on by the MQ-9 Reaper here on the airport that the 147th operates. So sometimes you find history in a lot of places. A gentleman came in not long ago actually early July, and he had his grandfather's logbook and other artifacts. And his grandfather had been part of a project called Aphrodite. I was not familiar with it. And so I had to go read up on it. And it was actually probably one of the very first UAV type projects. And what attracted him to show and tell about it was we have a TBM Avenger that we fly on a regular basis. His grandfather had been a pilot in one, and also some other aircraft. And they would actually fly remotely another aircraft from that airplane. They had to be within 10 miles and would control the aircraft. And then they would crash the aircraft into the target that they wanted to with loaded bombs and so forth. In this gentleman's logbook was Joe Kennedy died today, and with some of the details of that. And so that was how Joe Kennedy died, was in aircraft, and the bombs exploded as a part of that program. And so sometimes there's history that we don't even realize around us. And so we're constantly learning as well, and that keeps it very exciting and very interesting.
Well, and and that was the thing for me, is not knowing around here, around the area I'm at in East Tennessee. We know a lot about, of course, the Enola Gay. We know a whole lot about the Memphis Belle. The Memphis Belle's big around here, obviously in Tennessee. But yeah, I appreciate you coming on the show and giving us some education on that, because I didn't know anything about the Jimmy Doolittle B-25. Now I do.
Well, let me show you one other thing real quick.
Absolutely.
I had a gentleman bring in that his father, older gentleman, and his father had been a navigator in World War II. And sometimes folks will bring things, and would you like us to donate these? And a lot of times it's duplicates of things and things that may be better somewhere else, but a lot of times they're things that we certainly enjoy. Right there is an original map, and he was a navigator on B-17s in World War II, and from a particular base in the UK. And that is an original map. The color is still brilliant. Wow. And so we framed that and are just about to put that out on display. Now, on the back side of that map, this gentleman made his own spreadsheet. He flew 31 missions.
It was the Declaration of Independence.
Well, it's not of equal value, but it's of great value, certainly.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah,
definitely. He made his own spreadsheet, 31 missions, listing date, aircraft, crew, the target, and notes from it. Heavy flak today, or whatever it might be. And so we very carefully have copied the back. And so we're going to display the front, and we did not mount it. We're actually mounting it in there with magnets, so it's not stuck to anything. We don't want that. We want to preserve that and don't want it to slide. But we're going to show the back of that, and it's those kinds of things that just make it so real. And you can see the lines where he drew, with their course, and very often he would number the mission number on there, and so it's really fascinating to me, and we love to have those kinds of artifacts here, and to share those and with folks to see the sacrifices made and the efforts that were made by so many.
It goes to show you too, and something that just bring about what you was talking about there. There's so much more to aviation museums than airplanes, because
absolutely
human nature is to run in and look at the airplanes. Which I have a habit myself of doing when I go into a museum. I'm all about the airplanes, and you got to think there's artifacts there. There's just like the photo you just showed us. There's all that to look at as well.
So many aircraft that you see in museums, with the exception of places like Dayton and a few other locations that are the Smithsonian, places like that, they're a different category. But so many aircraft that you see did not leave the States during World War II. Otherwise, they likely would have been destroyed or were considered war weary. There are exceptions to those. We've had we had a Spitfire here that visits from time to time, and I expect back probably within the year that actually flew over D-Day on that day. We had an L5 here. I used to have an L5, so I'm very passionate about this one. That it's a fascinating story how it even came together. But the guy who was refurbishing it, as he peels back the layer of the onion, he starts to realize, wait a minute, this airframe was on Iwo Jima. And there's a famous picture of a U.S. Marine jumping on the wing spar, and a Japanese sniper hitting him. He rolls off into the weeds. And so he furiously got this airplane back in amazing condition. And then they found that Marine. He was still alive at the time, quite elderly. And at Oshkosh, maybe 10 years ago or so, they reunited this aircraft and that Marine. And it since has passed away. So those are the kinds of stories that I love to see and hear that amazing. Make it even more human, more real than just a machine operating. I love that part of it, but the depth of the stories that go with these and the history, and certainly we want to show the engineering side of things. We talk about, show with kids, fabric aircraft. How is this done? How do they hand stitch? Our DC-3, look at these rivets. They were all hand done by somebody. And as they built these aircraft, and so there's a lot that goes to it, and other than just that's a good looking airplane. Yeah,
exactly. And what is that website again for the museum?
It's LoneStarFlight.org. LONE Starflight. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll put all that in the description below, and we encourage folks to come out and see you. And I'm going to start planning my trip here pretty soon to come see you.
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to say.
We got to meet up with Shae and Julien and come down there.
Absolutely. Yeah. Let us know when, and we'd love to have you. And you never know, we might have something special going on while you're here. Good chance of it.
Should I bring my tent?
No, but I do recommend an inflatable mattress.
Yeah,
gotcha.
There you go.
Gotcha.
That's what you can tell the parents from the children by the inflatable mattress.
There you go.
Exactly.
That's it. That is it. We appreciate you. We appreciate you coming on. Loved it.
It's been my pleasure, and appreciate the opportunity. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Welcome. Jerry Scott.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye-bye.
Well, thank you so much for having us on coming on the podcast today. And it was very interesting to hear what was happening down in Texas, the Aviation Museum there. And just want to turn it over to Derrick for some closing comments.
Yeah, absolutely. And we thoroughly enjoyed. I mean, I was so honored to have Jerry Scott on the program, Shae.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I mentioned earlier, after Rod Machado and now Jerry, I cannot wait to see what's next. We just turned his mic on and he just went. I don't think we asked that very many questions. He knew right what to do, right what to say. And you love people like that because it's just tell us, just give it to us. Just give us what's happening. And it just makes it so much easier. He and Rod both have made it really easy. And I cannot wait to talk to him again.
Well, and absolutely. And just, exploring the emotional side of aviation and some of the great, great stories he told us there was amazing.
Yeah, I love that. I love that one insert story here.
Yeah, exactly. And
you got to listen to it to hear it.
You have to. And you can get the link to the Lone Star Flight Museum down below in the comment section. And Julien Matinson, where can folks get a hold of you for coaching in aviation?
Well, I'm on social media on YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, and TikTok. And you can also always reach out to me on my website, www.julienmartinson.com. For those young people that are looking for careers, aviation has everything that you're looking for. If you want a career that flies fast, supersonic careers is the way for you to go. And if you want one that takes you above the clouds, then a pilot career is the way to go. And we can discuss more about that when you book your first call with me at julienmartinson.com.
Very well. In the History of Aviation podcast, Shae, man, where are we? Where are we not?
We are literally everywhere. Yeah, we're pretty much everywhere. And then we were so much everywhere that we had to create our own little space, hoapod.com. And there you'll have everything that you'll need. You have all of the, hey, message us, the suggestions for episodes. If you want to ever be on the podcast, you can try out for that as well. And then also with the RSS feed, that's on there as well. So we always get the newest update for the episode that we have right on the website. Good to go.
Yeah, and the website's a one-stop shop. We have our short clips over on TikTok. We have our full-length video. So you can either listen to the podcast or you can watch it over on YouTube or on the website. Like I said, that's the one-stop shop. But our short clips are everywhere. If you're watching those, be sure and like and follow us because we're constantly updating. We have so many more great guests on. We also have a one-time donation through PayPal, which has been in the description below. That helps us out, with finances to do this.
Yeah, because we were talking about potentially going out to Texas to see Jerry, so that would cost money to do. So we would want to. We would want to have funds for that as well. And then also there's funds that we pay for monthly for, the way that we record as well. Having the ability to have a program ready and willing to record for us, that costs money. So other than that, we're ready and willing to show up and record whenever you guys need it. And that's every week. Mondays is when we record.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk just really briefly before we close, Shae, about the History of Aviation Studios.
Yes, so that is something that we had cooked up a few weeks ago, maybe almost even a month ago at this point. Right, I think it was just after you went to the Splash-In, I think. Mm-hmm. And I had put together a video, and just for nothing else than giggles, I just put History of Aviation Studios Presents, and then we just would go through with the video. And Derrick, you liked it, and you were like, well, what is that right there? And I said, well, that's just something I just threw together. And so we've been talking about it, and so I think that we are going to actually incorporate that, make that into an LLC, actually become a studio so that we can not only house this podcast, but we can house the other podcasts that we run. And then we can also go places, 2 locations, and film video and, do things underneath the umbrella of the History of Aviation Studios. So that's also now in the works as well.
Absolutely. Great things ahead. And I enjoyed it, guys.
Yeah. Can't wait to see what's next. We'll talk to you guys next week.
For Julien Matinson, producer Shae Jones, guest Jerry Scott, I'm Derrick Beeler. Thanks for listening to the History of Aviation podcast.